This is the Music and Mental Health Podcast with Theology and DJ Fat Lane.
What is up, world? Welcome to the Music and Mental Health Podcast, episode 18. Wow, we're really flying by here. Today we have music and mixes from the likes of After Us, Vector U, Steel Dragon 8, Equalize, Jeff Rush, myself, and more. Make sure you stay tuned at the end for my discussion with Pete Beat. This is a really interesting one, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear it. We'll even have a little tune by him later. But first, here's that tune by Jeff Rush. This is Moonside. Enjoy. That was Select with Pink Paradise. And before that, you heard Mindaholic with Amaranth. Up next, we've got a little Max Freegrant and Slowfish. This is Light After Darkness. Enjoy.
Health Podcast.
Biaba presents Parallel Windows with an absolute banger there. That was Foray. And up next is After Us with Into the Unknown. I really like After Us. Keep making music, please.
Wonder why, I wonder why I keep on trying to stay. Can't break away. I've realized that I might just need to find another way. Another day. Take it all out of me again. I need to get away. I need to get away. I don't care, yeah, just go ahead. Bad for me to stay, but I need to get away. And all I know is that I need to let go. I can't make it alone. Whoa. So just take it slow. Walk into the unknown. I can't make it alone. I'm diving into the unknown.
That was Sasha Milde with Tomorrow. And up next, man, I've really crossed an item off of my bucket list here. This is mine and Equalize's Chill Step collab of The Legend of Zelda's Great Fairies Fountain or File Select theme by Koji Kondo. I hope you enjoy.
Health Podcast.
Deltaroons don't forget there with the Sorry remix treatment. I met Sorry at MagFest, and that dude was awesome. Before that, you heard Super Mario Galaxy 2's Yoshi Star Galaxy, remixed by Player 2. Up next, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Vector U, and this time he's bringing Cool Dance with him on the remix duties. This is Outset Island from the Wind Waker. Enjoy.
make the whole world do all the things that it ought to do. What it would were all the stories true. And at the end of my arm, you live this cruel life and try to forgive. A photon from another galaxy reaches the earth as we gaze at the sky. It traveled on these last 2 million years, all along to meet your blue-grey eye. I'll make life safe again, like you were 8 or 10. Down blossom carpets, summer meadow path, on the endless day in the photograph. And all the clocks wind down for me. These atoms are mine, they know my history. A photon from another galaxy reaches the earth as we gaze at the sky. It traveled on these last 2 million years, all along to meet your blue-grey eye.
This is the Music and Mental Health Podcast.
I'll make 2 1 for you. I'll make the end brand new. The things that pull you from a perfect life will not be there nor any kind of strife. And if you find that I don't succeed, well, off you, my heart, it bleeds. A photon from another galaxy reaches the earth as we gaze at the sky. It traveled on these last 2 million years, all along to meet your blue-grey eye.
Himself there with Another Galaxy. Hope you enjoyed that one. Before we get into our discussion with him, let's listen to a new one from Skill Dragon 8. This is his remix of Bubblegum KK from Animal Crossing. Enjoy. Well, that's all I got for you today on the music front. Let's get right into that discussion with Pete Beat. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Music and Mental Health Podcast, episode 18. Wow, we are really cruising along here. The time flies. You'll notice that DJ Fat Rain is not with us today, but instead I have another person from the United Kingdom. This is Pete Beat. He was recommended to the podcast by a viewer, and I'm really stoked to have you, man. Pete, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having us on, first of all.
Totally.
So I'm a musician. I'm about to release my fourth album. Just the singles are coming out at the moment. So I've released 3 albums before this and various EPs. And I've also, throughout the years, had various mental health struggles, which is kind of the story of the fourth album that's coming out. So I haven't really spoke openly about this before. But I just thought, as it's the story of the album, it would seem like a good time to talk about it. And it seemed like a slightly difficult thing to start talking about. But I thought that probably means it's a good thing to talk about, to reduce the stigma. If whatever you're going through, there's probably other people experiencing the same things. I thought 100%. It might help.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I love that your fourth album is specifically about kind of your story and what you went through. Before we go into that, what kind of music do you make, Pete?
It's hard to describe. Hopefully you'll put a link or something below. So
100%. 100%. Yeah. You'll get all the shout outs. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of describe it as Geordie folk, but with some electronic and jazz elements in there as well.
Love that.
But you probably wouldn't, from that description, expect what it actually sounds like.
I guess the viewers will just have to check you out. No, that's awesome. So do you want to kind of tell us about your story and how it ties into your upcoming album? And when is it releasing, by the way?
So that's in April, middle of April. Oh,
nice. I also have an album releasing in April, so I guess we're twins. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah. Go ahead, man. Tell us about what's up.
Okay, I will do. So I'll start at the beginning in the early days and touch on all the bits that relate to music and mental health.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I started with music when I was quite a young child. From an early age, we had a Hammond organ in the house. So I just used to play that. And
such no one good else sounds. Love Hammonds.
Yeah. So no one else in the house really played it much, but I kind of just picked it up from there. I had a series of books to teach yourself to play, so I kind of worked through those. Had a couple of lessons, but didn't really get on with the lessons. I think I was too shy. So I just continued teaching myself. Then when I was about 11, I got a computer that could do music, an Amiga. So I started sort of messing around with sounds on there. And then in teenage years, kind of got into playing music with friends. So I had friends who played the guitar, so I picked up the guitar from playing with them. And we also got the 8-track that the school had. They let us borrow it on weekends.
Nice.
So we got into recording stuff.
I love that.
Yeah, a combination of the computer and the 8-track was sort of got into making songs.
That's so cool, man.
At that point, we were mainly just playing Doors songs. We're pretty much a Doors cover band. So
yeah, nice.
kind of know the Doors catalog.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And also in sort of childhood, went through phases of listening to the Beatles. I loved the Beach Boys. I think the Beach Boys were the first band I really, really loved. And then sort of later on the Smiths. So that was kind of, I love the Smiths. So that was kind of up until going to university. And then I didn't study music at university. I studied computer science. But in my last year at university, you get to work on a project. So you have a lot of free time.
Yep.
So I just thought I would see how good I could get a music production in that time, see if I could sort of do it professionally after finishing, to see if I could get up that standard. And I couldn't, but I sort of continued with it after that. So then continued throughout my 20s, just messing about with music. I didn't always have a studio, sort of living with friends. I had a track released on a little label in 2006. And that sort of things was just sort of chugging along then. And then in 2008, kind of, I think throughout my life, I've suffered with anxiety a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and particularly at university, I think I was only sort of 21 when I actually realised, hang on, I'm anxious all the time. I actually feel scared. I hadn't even it was so normal. I hadn't even realised it. And then
And
in
do you mind if I ask a question, Pete?
no, no.
Was this anxiety just in general for like no reason? You were just scared, or
Um,
was it triggered by certain things?
I think it was kind of I think mainly social anxiety. I would describe it as
Okay.
the
Yeah,
sort
sure,
of
sure, sure.
yeah, like interacting with other people. But
Okay.
it was so much the norm. Like I hadn't even realised I was anxious. Um, and kind of I sort of realised it a bit when I was sort of at that point when I was 21, but
Hmm.
still sort of continued just sort of getting by as I did throughout that sort of period. But then in 2008, when I was 29, I sort of had a bit of just a conflict in my personal life that sort of flared up that was very stressful. And I
Hmm.
got very stressed. And in the end, that led to us having a psychotic breakdown.
Wow.
Um, so it kind of, the actual point of having the breakdown, I actually went sort of like elevated mood rather than feeling depressed. So I was quite sort of paranoid and I had delusions of grandeur and that. But it all seemed quite positive. Like there was people out there trying to help us, sort of thing.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the psychiatrist described it as a positive persecutory complex at one point. So
Wow.
I can imagine, like, luckily, so I've had two episodes of psychosis. Luckily for
Hmm.
me, they were both sort of associated with this elevated mood. So I can imagine
Yeah.
it being sort of terrifying because it's so real and you believe it so much
Totally.
that if you thought if you thought everyone was out to harm you, it must be absolutely terrifying. But luckily for me, it was kind of okay. But
Yeah. Right.
what that first psychotic episode sort of gave us was a sort of taste of what life is like without anxiety. And then it only lasted a few weeks, the psychosis, but kind of afterwards, I sort of realized how anxious I was all the time. And then the thing about anxiety is if you start to fear the fear itself, that becomes like a positive feedback loop. So
Yeah.
it's just sort of like the anxiety really spiked. Um, and I was really struggling. So I was going back to work. I was only working at first, doing like a phased return. I was working 2 hours a day for
Hmm.
2 days a week, and even doing for 4 hours a week was an absolute nightmare. Like
Wow.
from the moment I finished to getting to the next shift, I was just in a panic about having to do it. So it was kind of at that point as well when I really started writing songs. So kind of started as like a bit of an escape. It was just something that sort of like eased the anxiety a bit. So
Hmm.
I kept on doing that. And things kind of carried on like that. So I was sort of struggling a bit, sort of getting a bit better. And then in 2010, I kind of had the second episode there, again, triggered by sort of a little bit of a conflict in my personal life.
Yeah. And again, a
Um,
positive sort of experience, though,
it
rather
was,
than
yeah,
depressive. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, absolutely. So I was quite manic. And so the first one I'd been put in touch with like psychiatric services and prescribed antipsychotic medication. And that had been withdrawn because the thought it might have just been one off. So that was withdrawn, say, a few months before the second episode. And when I had the second episode, I sort of my behaviour became very strange. I was sort of scaring my family a bit. And at that point, I was sort of detained in hospital as sectioned, as they call it in the UK.
Wow.
And again, restarted on the antipsychotic medication, which I'm still on to this day, because
Hmm.
once you've had a couple of episodes, they think, well, you might be prone to this. It's safer to stay on the medication and deal
Sure.
with the side effects than it is to risk like another episode of psychosis.
Right.
Because apparently with psychosis, like if you have multiple episodes, it can cause more long-term damage as it goes on. And it can cause like cognitive deficits and that, which luckily hasn't happened with me. So it just seems safer for me to stay on the meds.
Right. And how long have you been on them without an episode being
So
triggered?
since 2010, so
Okay.
12,
Since
13,
2010. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So luckily for me, the meds pretty much work completely.
Hmm.
So obviously
Yay,
that's not
science.
the,
Woo.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it's obviously not the case for some people that the drugs
Right.
cure all the symptoms. So I'm
True.
quite lucky, but I, like I think I would. You're talking about things to take away. Like if one of the takeaways I think is don't give up hope just because you've got a diagnosis. So I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2010,
Hmm.
which is obviously there's a lot of stigma around it. It's quite
Yeah,
like
a ton.
yeah,
Yep.
a big sort of scary diagnosis. So like like my story shows that it doesn't mean like you know it's not like a death sentence. It's not the end.
Yeah,
It's not the end of things because I've sort of recovered now to the point where I've got a good job and good friends. Like no problems
amazing.
now. Yeah. So I was going to say like after the second episode, the anxiety afterwards wasn't as bad. I was kind of having come out of one episode before. I kind of knew what to expect a bit, but I was still it was still there definitely. But then I carried on writing songs. So I wrote a lot of songs between 2010 and now.
Yeah, I think you
And
said
I
like
think
500 or something, right?
yeah, 500
It's
songs.
insane.
Yeah. So I wrote one a week without fail. Well, I think there was a break of 2 weeks, one a week for 7 years, which
Wow.
is obviously like 350 in a row.
Yeah, that's crazy. I
Yeah.
I've been doing what I do for about 16 years now, and I don't even think
Oh,
I have
sorry.
that many catalog. And a lot are really bad, and you don't want to hear them. So.
Oh, a lot of mine are really bad. You don't want to hear them, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's
But
500
hey,
of them.
it's not about how good it is. It's just doing
Yeah,
it to have that expression
absolutely.
and to have that escape.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
totally agree with you there.
Yeah. So I think music, it's like it's an escape. It like takes you away from your problems by
Hmm.
being creative, listening to it, it does as well. But I would also say writing songs is it's kind of a way to sort of hold the problems in mind and examine them and be mindful about them, which is kind of like a sort of therapy in itself.
Hmm.
I think like whatever art you're doing is kind of like that. It's you know you're trying to express something, so to do that you try to understand it better. So I think that's been like a massive sort of therapeutic influence over the years.
Yeah, totally. And even I would say like for those who aren't really artistic or who don't deem themselves as artistic, even just writing things down like
Yeah,
can have
yeah,
that same sort of effect.
yeah,
Yeah, but anywho, continue.
yeah. So absolutely, I would say it has a therapeutic effect. So like I would say I've been on a steady increase since 2010, just getting better and better.
Love it.
I'm feeling great these days. Um, yeah, and just sort of writing all those songs, even though they weren't very good to start with, kind of simply by doing that many, you get better at it. And I'm sort of quite enjoying the sort of getting a positive response to the music that I'm putting out at the moment. So
Yeah,
yeah,
doesn't it feel
yeah,
good? I
that's
mean,
good.
you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure have your 10,000 hours in.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't like to say how many more than
If you
that.
yeah, right. But no, it does feel good, right? Like I am at a
Yeah,
point as well in my music career where it's like, you know, you've seen those memes that are like it's like an iceberg, right? And
yeah,
it's underneath the sea, it's like all these years of like hard work and grinding, and then what people actually see is like on top. I feel like I'm getting
yeah.
to that point as well in my music career.
Okay, okay.
So no, it feels good. It for sure feels good. I have two more follow up questions. One is easier, and one is going to take us on a little bit of a probably a deeper dive. But
Okay.
what kind of songs do you tend to write the most? So, like out of those 500, right? What was sort of the theme of them? Did you always write about things dealing with your mental health issues, or did you write about, I don't know, a beach or the forest? Like, give me some context, man.
Yeah, so I would say most of them are just me moaning about stuff because then you moan in a song, so you don't have to moan about it in real life.
Yeah,
So I
right.
would say like you know like I would say big themes are like um, unrequited love,
Hmm.
um, perhaps low mood, depression, anxiety.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I would say that there's quite a few sort of bizarre ones in there. There's like you know, one about in fact, I've wrote a couple about me rear end.
Got
You
it.
know, cover all subjects. So yeah, some of them are sort of
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of them are moaning and quite
Sure.
serious, but
Sure.
there's some funny ones in there as well.
And you got to do that, right? Like I've definitely remixed some really weird things if you look at my SoundCloud. So yeah.
Yeah,
um
yeah. I
but
think you've always got to do like if you're going to do art, like if you're going to do something for 15, 20 years, you've got to do what interests you. It's no there's no point in trying to please someone else, because you'll just get
Yeah,
bored with that long before you have any success.
totally. Preach. Could not say it any myself. Um, your new album though coming out in April. So you say that it's sort of, so is it about your journey? Like how do the songs pertain to what
Um,
you've gone through and maybe what you're going through now?
yeah, so they're more or less roughly based around the time I spent in hospital and the sort of the things around that. So some of it's more general mental health issues,
Yeah.
like
And
being out.
that was going to be my second question, by the way, is like, if I may ask, how was being in the institution? But I don't want to cut you off too much. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the songs on the album, some of them are specifically about the experience of being sectioned and getting sort of injected with drugs and that sort of thing.
Wow.
Still quite quite jolly tunes for all of that. Then there's other sort of ones just about sort of life in general. There's one that like specifically mentions schizophrenia. There's one that sort of talks about an idea that I don't know if you're familiar with the author Alan Moore, and
I'm not sorry.
he wrote a book called V for Vendetta,
Sorry.
and there was a character in there.
Oh, for Vendetta. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
There was a character in there that was had schizophrenia, and Alan Moore described it as the sort of the illness making you sort of magnetic, sort of giving you a magnetic personality where sort of people are drawn to you,
Hmm.
and kind of like to answer your sort of next question, kind of that's what it felt like when I was in hospital. It probably wasn't like that for anyone else, but to me, it
Yeah.
sort of felt like that. It felt like I was in there, and everyone else was in there to sort of to help me or whatever, or in some way
Hmm.
related to me.
Other
So
patients
the
included. Did you have much interaction with other patients or?
um, I did, and I was
Okay.
probably doing the head in because I was so upbeat and positive when they've
Yeah,
obviously all going through their own thing.
of
Um,
course. Yeah.
but as I said, like the time I was in there, my mood was quite elevated, so that it wasn't really a problem for us. I can imagine it being awful if your mood goes the other way,
Right.
but luckily for me, it wasn't.
So this brings up another question. So your mood was elevated, right? So
Yep.
when it came time and people were like, well, you need to go here, you need to be institutionalized, you weren't against it at all. You were just like, okay,
Uh,
might as well. Like, what were your thoughts there?
so at the point I was actually taken into hospital, I was at my grandmother's house. And I would say I'd lost the plot at that point, really. I didn't know what was going on. I kind of wasn't speaking. I'd lost the ability to speak.
Got it.
My grandmother had managed to sort of get us out of the room long enough to call my mother, who'd got in touch with the sort of crisis mental health team.
Yeah.
And they turned up, and I didn't understand who they were. And then eventually the police turned up, and because of my behaviour was coming so strange and erratic, and I was sort of worrying people, put us in handcuffs in a police car, took us to the institution. So
Wow. Man, that is crazy. Like, I can't even imagine.
yeah,
And
it it seems like a different world now.
yeah,
It's
because like
so
talking to
long
you
ago.
now, you seem so well. So that's just, it's a crazy testament to how science works, and music. I love it. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share about being in there, or
Um,
I don't know. I want to be respectful as I possibly can be.
yeah,
So only
no,
share what
no.
you're comfortable talking about.
One thing I would say about it is, like people have the idea about it that it's going to be like an awful place and it's going to be scary.
Yeah,
And there are some strange people in there, but I would say I never felt unsafe while I was in there. It's there was the occasional in 3 months with a ward full of sort of mentally ill uh, mentally ill blokes. There's a bit of conflict now and then, but it never felt
sure.
sort of never felt scary. So I would say if you've got to go there, don't necessarily dread it. It's not a
Hmm.
terrible place.
Okay. That's actually not something that I expected to hear. So that's actually really awesome to hear.
Okay.
Um, yeah, like these places genuinely do help people. They're trying to help people. No, I love that. Wow, you have a fascinating story, and I'm really looking forward to diving into your music more, as I'm sure people listening will be as well. Um, I really like stuff that's off the cuff, and your your sort of description of what kind of music you make earlier got me really intrigued. And I've listened to some of it as well, but when the album drops, I would definitely, I'll definitely be listening to it. What date does it drop? So you said in April, but
Yeah, it is Friday, the 21st of April.
The 21st. Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
That's a week after my album comes out, so that's awesome.
Okay. So
Wow.
we won't be competing for the same listeners.
Yeah, right. Exactly. um, Also, my crowd is more the video game music nerd crowd, so I don't think we'll be
Okay.
competing in general, but it'll complement that. That's what I'm saying. Well, awesome, dude. Is there anything else that you want to share? Because I want you to be able to share whatever you want that you think will help people.
Um, the only thing I'd say beyond what I've already talked about
Mm-hmm.
is if you're struggling, things are going to get massively better. Like not just a little bit better. It's like your life can entirely change. It can go from really struggling to, happy and productive member of society.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely love that. And I would say also to add to that that excuse me, the catalyst is change. It's positive change. Um, Obviously, your life changed in the ways it needed to in a positive sense. And look at you now, you're thriving.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I
So yeah,
guess
so
yeah,
one thing I've said.
go ahead.
Sorry, one thing I've said in the past is had I not had those psychotic episodes, I wouldn't have been put in touch with the mental health services, and I probably wouldn't have dealt with the anxiety that sort of plagued my life up until that point. So overall, it sort of has been like a positive thing overall. Although it was there were parts of it that were a bit rough, but
Yeah, sure.
positive overall.
Right. I mean, any growth journey is going to have ups and downs, right? We even say in a disclaimer in the description of every episode that like we're not this, and if you need actual help, go get it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're here saying that, yeah, do it because I've done it and it's changed my life, and I love that
yeah,
because it just sort of validates. Uh, I don't know. I feel like it validates this mission, and I don't know. Um, I don't know if you would agree or not, but I just
yeah.
thank you so much, Pete, for sharing your story, and I really hope that it helps people also through the music that you make. Please check out Pete. I will link all his stuff in the description below so you can do that. Yeah, I guess anything else you want to say? Otherwise, I think we can conclude this episode.
No, I don't think so. Just thank you very much for having me
Yeah,
on. It's been great to be able to sort of share my story on this podcast, which the title of it is highly relevant to this
yeah,
album, as I said.
indeed, indeed. And yeah, thank you, Pete. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I wish you all the success. And if you ever want to be a guest again, sometime in the future, let me know. If you have new music coming out, you want me to throw it on the podcast, please let me know. I would be happy to do it. So
Brilliant, thank you.
cool, definitely. All right, we will see you
Okay.
guys next month on the Music and Mental Health Podcast. Take care.